The group stood frozen in shock as the woman, clutching the child tightly, trembled. She couldn't believe it, a zombie had talked. At the center of the room, Jiang in a gas mask stood silently. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him, uncertain of what to do. The woman holding the child and another girl nearby shook uncontrollably, overwhelmed with fear. Their bodies trembled, unable to process what was happening. Breaking the tension, Jiang stepped forward calmly. With a reassuring smile, he gestured toward the child and told them not to be afraid. He explained that Jiang wouldn't attack, trying to ease the fear spreading among the group. The girls trembled as she described Jiang, a terrifying monster capable of killing without hesitation. Tears welled up in her eyes. Jiang, standing calmly, narrowed his eyes, trying to process what she said. Something about it made him curious. Without hesitation, he asked if she had seen creatures like this before. The girl nodded hesitantly, clutching tightly onto the woman beside her. Jiang's sharp gaze fixed on her as he pressed further, demanding to know where she had seen it. With a shaky voice, the woman finally answered it was at the East City Decoration Market. As Jiang processed the information, he muttered to himself that things were advancing faster than expected. He thought it would take more time, but the reality was far worse. It was happening now. Even more concerning, the East City Decoration Market was dangerously close to Old Tea City. Jiang, clearly unsettled, hesitated before asking Jiang what these creatures were. Jiang, maintaining his calm, responded that they were rare mutants. Unlike typical zombies, these beings retained some level of rational thought and memory, which gave them an edge, making them far more dangerous and efficient hunters. Jiang continued, explaining that their abilities stemmed from unstable mutations. Though powerful, this instability turned them into unpredictable threats. Most rare mutants were erratic, violent, and uncontrollable, far more dangerous than regular zombies. Jiang trembled as he questioned his own fate. "What about me?" His eyes widened with fear. Jiang placed a steady hand on his shoulder, reassuring him. He explained that the masked man was one of the rare, lucky ones, a mutant who retained his sanity. Jiang promised to keep him grounded, ensuring he wouldn't lose control like the others. Shifting the focus, Jiang asked if there were other survivors nearby. The group hesitated before answering. They explained that many people were still trapped in the sales office, while others might have sought refuge in the basement. Jiang's expression turned serious as he realized the scale of the situation. He silently prepared himself. More people needed saving, and time was running out. Jiang led the group down a dark, narrow staircase toward the basement, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Suddenly, a faint noise broke the stillness. Open doors stained with blood. Jiang's eyes widened as they entered the space. The others stood behind him, faces pale with dread as the scene unfolded. In the dim light, traces of blood and shadows hinted at a grim truth. Jiang's tone darkened as he explained what was happening. Survivors were being captured and brought here, only to be slaughtered mercilessly. The group walked deeper into the dark basement, their expressions tense as they processed the horrific scene before them. Jiang's voice broke the silence as he questioned if this was why there were no survivor camps left in the southern city. The realization weighed heavily on everyone. One of the survivors spoke up in disbelief, questioning why so many people were being killed. Surely the monsters couldn't consume all of it. Another added that the bodies were regularly moved elsewhere, and no one knew how many of them truly existed. Jiang stood near the bodies, piecing together the grim puzzle. His voice turned cold and sharp as he acknowledged the numbers: far too many victims for consumption. A chilling thought crossed his mind. He speculated out loud. Could it be that they're feeding the zombies? Jiang turned to the group, asking for details about the sales office they had mentioned earlier. One of the survivors explained that it was located near the south gate, just about a kilometer away. Captured people were first taken there and locked up. Those deemed unfit or eliminated were then brought here to be slaughtered. Jiang's expression tightened as he listened, his sharp eyes reflecting his rising concern. Suddenly, a faint sound caught his attention. He turned, muttering to himself, his focus sharpening as though sensing something unusual. Out of nowhere, a system window appeared in front of Jiang. The group watched silently as the text revealed itself. Mission activated. Read Utopia objective. Expand the community. Requirements: increase the community score as much as possible. Current score: 2 reward points, 20 current points. 36. Jiang and the others approached the sales office, its ominous exterior casting a heavy shadow. Inside, 2 guards patrolled the area, casually chatting about earlier gunshots they had heard near the north gate. One of them sighed, remarking with a grim tone that live people were being used for target practice. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the calm. Chang landed on the ground with force, surrounded by armed guards. Before they could react further, chaos erupted. Screams filled the air as terrified shouts rang out, "Zombies!" The guards panicked, their voices rising in fear and confusion. Inside one of the dim rooms of the sales office, a group of women sat huddled together, their faces weary and hopeless. Suddenly, loud noises from outside startled them. One of the women stood up in alarm, demanding to know what was happening. Another woman yelled to keep the door shut. She didn't care what chaos was unfolding outside, her only plea was to stop anyone from coming in. The door handle turned slowly, the sound sending waves of panic through the room. One of the women, her face drenched in sweat, screamed desperately, begging whoever was outside not to come in. Fear had pushed her to her breaking point. The door opened, and standing in the doorway was Jiang. His calm, composed figure contrasted sharply with the chaos inside. Stepping forward, Jiang addressed the group firmly, telling them to come out. The women, though hesitant, sensed something different about him. Slowly, they gathered themselves, following his command. With Jiang leading the way, the women joined the survivors, now part of a growing group. They walked together through the blood-stained halls, leaving behind the horrors of the room. The woman stepped forward. She asked Jiang if he was truly willing to provide them with a safe place. Jiang's answer was firm and unwavering yes. But his gaze sharpened as he added one condition: everyone has to work. Survival would require effort, and no one would be exempt. Hearing this, the group's spirits lifted. The survivors eagerly agreed, with one declaring that they were all able-bodied and ready to contribute. Their confidence grew as they realized they had been given a chance and opportunity to start anew. Jiang didn't waste any time. Turning toward the exit, he raised his hand, signaling the group to follow. With a determined voice, he urged them forward. Jiang and the group drove through the night in a bus. Finally, they arrived at Fortress under the starlit sky. The survivors hesitated, taking in the sight of the towering walls and watchtowers. Inside the fortress, both spotted the bus. One of them exclaimed excitedly, recognizing it as Brother Jiang's vehicle. The other stopped him, cautious, noting that the bus hadn't entered directly. Jiang stepped out of the bus, turning back to the group. Calmly, he told them that this fortress was their safe haven, but entry wouldn't come easily. The survivors stood before Jiang, voicing their fears about where they could possibly live in such a dangerous world. Jiang calmly explained that temporary cabins and iron fences had been set up outside the fortress. While not as safe as inside, the conditions there were far better than most settlements they had seen. Jiang continued, pointing toward the surrounding area. There were unfinished buildings and open spaces in Old Tea Town. With time, they could renovate and create a proper community, a place where conditions could steadily improve. Hearing his words, the group was overwhelmed with gratitude. Some fell to their knees, calling Jiang their savior and praising his generosity. The scene shifted as morning arrived. Outside, vehicles began to move. A large truck rolled in. Inside, a woman with purple hair sat, frustrated as no one responded to her calls. She muttered to herself, irritated, wondering what Jiang Qingwen was up to. Something felt off. Leaning forward, she observed her surroundings carefully and grew more uneasy. Determined, she stepped out of the truck with a companion, pushing open the heavy door. Light poured in as they entered the building. The girl gaze reflects his awareness. Are ugly three zombies standing in the shadowy light. Their bodies twitch unnaturally, emitting low growls. One of the zombies suddenly charges forward with a deafening roar. Its face and sharp teeth gleam under the faint light as it lunges. A tall, confident woman clad in bold attire steps in. With effortless strength and a chilling calmness, she delivers a devastating blow, sending the zombie crashing back. He hit him on to the face. The other two zombies halt briefly, their growls fading in hesitation.
This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.